Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Here we are, back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What a menu we have for you this morning. We had a virtual mosh pit at an AAU game last night. We had an NFL owner say he would sign Colin Kaepernick. And we had something happen in a baseball game that I'm positive in 150 years has never happened before. All that and a whole lot more. So we are busy this morning, big fella. I like that shirt.
Oh, thank you very much. And I like the fact that we have so many different things to talk about. Even with NFL training camps opening up, certainly football is going to become, the heavy main menu here very, very soon. But a lot of other stuff going on, ancillary things that are pretty fun to talk about and pretty interesting.
We're going to get to football actually here almost immediately because we have a situation in the NFL, and you and I were just chatting about it briefly before we started here, that I'm not sure I ever remember happening. Certainly in our 18 years that we've been doing this, and we've started out a million football seasons, and we used to do this funny song, our favorite things, and we. I don't remember. I'm going to say something in this hour, probably in the next 10 minutes, about this NFL season that I don't think we've ever said before. And we'll see. I'll say it. We'll see if you agree with it or not, and then we'll sort of go from there. But let's start by taking you off the top and saying, go USA. Team USA winning its 6th Gold Cup title last night, Mike, with a win over Jamaica.
Yeah, again, Jamaica shocked Mexico in the semis and got into the finals because that's been the only team that the U.S. has basically lost to in the finals. They're now 6-4 in Gold Cup finals, all 4 losses coming against Mexico, but they didn't have to play them, and they beat Jamaica 2-1, their 6th Gold Cup title. As Greeny said, they're on an unbeaten streak of 14 games, all since Bruce Arena, another go-around as a head coach of this team. A streak of 14 unbeaten, the team longest since 2004 when they went 16 game unbeaten streak. So let's see where this team can go. I mean, it's certainly not done a whole lot. It's been the women. We've always talked about the women's national team, but let's see where this men's team can go.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, where the Marlins went last night, what is their own personal record book? They put up 22 runs against Texas.
Yeah, first time Marlins history. All 9 starters had at least 1 hit and an RBI. They played in Texas, so they used the DH, and the pitcher didn't hit in this one. The Rangers allowed 22 runs for the first time in a home game in franchise history. Shouldn't be a shocker that Giancarlo Stanton homered again his 33rd of the season, so he has passed Aaron Judge for most in the baseball season. And again, the Yankees are starting to play at home now. That's where Judge had most of his home runs in the first half, so we'll see if he gets his total up as well. Stanton, it's his 12th home run in July, tying the Marlins record. In fact, he did it 2 other times, and Dan Uggla did it as well, so I'm sure he's going to break that record.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, in their 100th game of the season, the Chicago Cubs have retaken sole possession of first place in the National League Central Division.
Yep, 8-3 win against the White Sox put them in that position. They entered, it was at sole position of first place in exactly 2 months. The last time was May 26th. They entered the break 5.5 back of the Brewers. Remember, we talked about that after the break, what it would take to catch Milwaukee, which had been playing well. But it's the Cubs coming out of the break. They're 10-2, tied for the Dodgers for the best record in baseball coming out of the break. So they're turning it around. Remember, Theo Epstein said, hey, we're not going anywhere else. We had the players right here. They just have to play better, and right now they are.
Off the top.
All right, we knew the Los Angeles Chargers, and that still takes a little thinking about. We knew they were in the market for a backup quarterback. They took a look at Robert Griffin, and then yesterday they made a trade and acquired Cardale Jones.
Cardale Jones, we talked a lot about when he was at Ohio State, what kind of a pro he would turn into, standing be that pocket thrower. And, he's going to take time to develop and coming out when he did, younger quarterback coming out. And we'll see where this goes. Obviously, we know that Phillip Rivers is the man there, but obviously we know Phillip Rivers is coming toward the back end of his career. So for Cardale Jones, there was that thought process. He could fit into that pocket system, throwing the ball. They had RG3, which is completely different than a Phillip Rivers type. But for Cardale, he gets new life. Let's see what he can do with it.
Off the top.
And finally, the Cavaliers brass held a news conference yesterday, and by brass, we're referring, of course, to the owner, Dan Gilbert, and the new general manager, Koby Altman. And one guess which name was the primary topic of conversation.
That would be one, Kyrie Irving. It was basically about a half-hour press conference where nothing was said. Right. I mean, absolutely, they just sat there and stirred things, and nothing was said, which isn't shocking. I didn't imagine there was going to be any sort of revelation or breaking news out of there, and there was none.
Well, I'm about to play you a minute 5 of Gilbert.
Off the top.
Let's say it wasn't absolutely nothing.
Can I get a quick cup of coffee?
That's what everybody's talking about. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Here, it is worth hearing what he said. Did he commit to anything? Did he make any large statement? The most interesting thing he said wasn't even about his own team.
No, that's exactly right.
So we'll get to that in a second. But let's start with the big question for owner Dan Gilbert. What can you tell us about the meeting that you had with Kyrie Irving?
As it's been widely reported, I sat down with Kyrie Irving and his agent a few weeks back. I don't know the exact date. And we do this, we try to do this every summer. And I think most of them we have. As we've done with other players and their agent, and whether their contract's coming up or not. And there was several scenarios discussed at that time, and I don't feel it's appropriate really get into the details of all those scenarios. And so, I don't know the sources of the report that there was a trade request made. I read it in the media like some of you reported and some of you read, but we talked about a wide range of possibilities in the future. At that time, we had not signed Koby yet as our general manager, and there were a few other moves, I believe, that have been made that weren't made at that time. So, these things are fluid. We think that Kyrie Irving is, one of the best guards in the NBA. He's part of a championship, 3 years straight to the finals, and, we value his talent significantly.
It's the art of talking a lot and saying nothing. Basically, other thing he says is Kyrie is under contract for 2 or 3 more years, depending on that last year, which is a player option in 2019, 2020. As of now, he's one of our best players, and we expect him to be in camp. I mean, I didn't expect anything different. I didn't expect any kind of revelation. I didn't expect any kind of, as Dan Gilbert said, they had a meeting, and I wouldn't say it either, of what they talked about. I wouldn't do that either. That you don't want to be that guy who you have a private meeting with someone and all of a sudden you're talking about it in the presser just because it's out there in the news. It's out there in the news because, we have our people that find sources that try and get information. That doesn't mean, in this situation that Dan Gilbert has to come out and say, yeah, we sat down for however long and this is exactly what we discussed. That's between them. And while on the outside we say we keep wondering, boy, is it getting toxic in there? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know the situation. And quite honestly, they don't have to tell us that. I have zero issue with that.
Right. I do believe the reporters that we have who suggest that it has become toxic. So, I'm going based just solely on that. Obviously, I haven't been chatting with Kyrie or LeBron lately. But I will say this. Last week, the new president of the New York Knicks, Steve Mills, when he had his press conference introducing their new general manager, was asked directly, will you buy out Carmelo Anthony? And in a press conference much like this one, where he talked and talked and talked and never said anything definitive, that was the only declarative statement he made. That was a one-word answer, no. And I don't believe it. But that's what you say. Right. You say you won't buy him out because you send the signal to the world, no, you can't just wait it out. I'm not going to buy him out eventually so you don't have to give us anything for
your
him.
Way. Yeah.
I am trying to revalue an asset that Phil Jackson devalued. Well, that's what Dan Gilbert and Koby Altman's job was yesterday, was to not allow themselves to have to make a trade at the tip of a bayonet, if you will, as was a phrase once used at Augusta, to put themselves in a position where they're basically trying to at least paint a picture of a world in which they don't have to trade Kyrie Irving. Now, we don't know if they do or they don't. because if it has gotten so bad, if Kyrie is basically, look, get me out of here, and LeBron is like, get him out of here, then they probably do have to trade him under the circumstances. But they certainly don't want the world to know that. So they're going to do their best to paint a picture of a scenario in which, one of the very realistic options is he stays here and we defend our 3-time Eastern Conference champion standing and go for another title. I don't know that I believe that's the scenario, but I understand why that's the position that you're trying to take publicly.
That's where you dig your heels in and say, this is where we are. We control the situation. The situation isn't out of control. We control it, and we'll do what's best for the Cavaliers.
That's actually a good way of putting it. They're trying to paint a situation that has been painted as being beyond their control as being within their control. So now let's get into the area where we're just guessing.
The fun part.
We're professional guessers.
Yes, we are.
What do you think is true? Do you think this really is so far down the road that they can't do anything about it?
I don't think Kyrie and LeBron don't like one another. But then again, I thought Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant did.
Right.
And were friends.
Right.
And I don't know if they disliked one another, but we thought they were friendlier than they really were. Given the information that we're getting from our people, I don't think there is dislike amongst. I don't think there's, I can't stand to look at this guy. I don't think, either is liked the situation, how it's come about and going forward. We even see, obviously, with LeBron coming back a little bit and saying refuting some of the statements about him or his camp. So I don't think there's any dislike there at all. That's why maybe there have been more conversations than we know that have taken place. That I don't know. I really hope there has been. I know I keep harping on that, but to me, that's the best way to really find out for them what's going on with the situation, not necessarily for us. But if you're asking if this is what we're doing, we're professional guessers, I don't think they dislike one another. So do I think it's past the point of it working out for him to stay there, which right now the best odds say he's going to stay there? No, I don't think we're past that point.
I would see, I don't know that the best odds say he's going to stay there. There are better odds of that than any other individual team. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to say he's on the Cavaliers, he could stay on the Cavaliers. So now you're betting, well, is it the Knicks, is it the Timberwolves, is it the this one or the that one? If I had to guess, I would guess that the horse is out of the barn. That's just, I'm purely, let's make it as clear as I can make it. I'm not talking to any of these people. I'm just listening to what all of our people who are talking to them are saying. And it sounds like the horse is out of the barn on this one. I believe Kyrie Irving is going to be traded. I think the Cavaliers were up there spinning yesterday to try and, exactly as you said, paint a scenario in which we're in control here. We'll do what's best for us. And the good news for them is they are in that position, certainly more than Indiana was with Paul George and many others that we've seen. But one way or another, I do believe Kyrie Irving will be traded before training camp begins.
All right, so we have another little wager for it.
We have another bet. We'll do breakfast for the staff. I
already owe him one. I owe him a breakfast. I'm waiting till we get through everybody's vacations and stuff till everybody's back, right when the football season starts, and I'll pay up on that.
Let me give you one more Dan Gilbert yesterday. This one was actually worth hearing. 13 seconds. Because, he's a guy who's in the past, and we all remember the letter, like when he gets a little aggravated, he's not afraid to let you know about it.
No, he's not.
And you know all the stories by now about how he thought they had a deal done with Indiana that was going to bring them Paul George, according to the reports, enough so that they were making arrangements for Gilbert and George to get on the phone together and talk about what his role was going to be in the organization and everything else. And that, again, the Cleveland side of this seems to be that Indiana pulled out of it at the last second. And the Indiana people dispute that. But one way or another, Dan Gilbert was asked about that, and he did offer a little bit of thought.
How would you, if you could go back and give us like a summation of what happened with the talks with Indiana for Paul George and what fell through there?
I will say that Indiana could have done better than they did.
There you have it.
He said they could have done better, thought a deal was in place where from the Pacers side there was questions about the protected pick and such, but basically Kevin Love would have been in Denver and Paul George would have been in Cleveland and felt that would have been a better deal than what Pacers actually got for him. But, yeah, he did throw that one out there. He lobbed that one up.
Yeah, so, I mean, but you read from that, again, now you're just taking someone's past history and you're reading into where he got mad. Yeah. When he was mad at LeBron, he wrote a sternly worded letter.
Yes, he did.
Perhaps even beyond sternly worded. In this case, he offered a few stern words for the Indiana Pacers, basically saying, we had a better deal on the table than the one that you guys wound up taking, which, from everything that we read, it is. And, it's interesting. if we are to believe that Kyrie Irving, the straw that broke the camel's back on Kyrie, was finding out that his name was involved in trade talks, Kevin Love, my goodness, he is the human trade rumor.
Then he should be in the corner sucking his thumb. I mean, his name is mentioned all the time. If you want a guy falling apart, oh my God, my name's in trade rumors. Holy smokes. It's interesting how people handle these situations.
Well, it's funny because Kevin Love was an NBA superstar.
Yes.
He was a human he was a human 2010 machine on bad teams in Minnesota. Then he comes to Cleveland, you think here's going to be the greatest scenario in the world. And again, he has been to 3 straight finals. Now, he didn't get to play in the first one because Kelly Olynyk pulled his arm out. But he's been in his team's been in 3 straight finals. He won a championship, and he got a max contract. So all things considered, things have worked out well for him.
Right.
But he's basically become a spot-up shooter. All anyone talks about is his liabilities as a defender, and he is talked about in trades basically every day.
All the time, yeah.
Every single day.
If the Cavs are mentioned in a trade, it's Kevin Love they're talking.
If there's one guy I would think would want to get out of there, it wouldn't be Kyrie. It would be Kevin Love. I would think he'd want to go.
I think
he's got his ring.
I think he's numb to it right now.
I guess.
All the talk and everything, and just kind of what will be, what will be. With Kyrie, Hembo and I were talking about it before the show because we were talking about this huge AAU game we're going to speak of.
Yeah.
Kyrie, that's as Hembo and I were saying, that's all Kyrie is known is AAU. Ball goes to him. He's the man. And all of a sudden you're the man. You're only 25 years old, so you're not that far removed from it. You're the number 1 pick in the draft, and here you are thinking maybe you should. And again, this is where we do the guessing. You believe maybe that your name shouldn't come up in trade talks, and it does, and you take it personal and you get aggravated. I don't know if that's the entire reason or not, because I do think there is something to the timing of it. If he doesn't go this year, next year, if LeBron does leave, I still have my doubts about that, though we see this, if the way it's going, maybe there are cracks in the foundation there, then he may get stuck there, Kyrie, so he may feel he needs to get out right now. But how far do you take it? Have we seen a basketball player? I don't know, Hembo, maybe you can look this up. Have we seen a basketball player say, I want to be traded, and if he's not show up, not play an entire season? Especially nowadays when you're making $20-some million. Are they not playing? So, are you coming and you playing there with a bad attitude? Are you going to do that as you're getting ready to maybe go somewhere else? Now, again, you're going to get picked and take it somewhere else, but is that what you're going to do? So there's that proverbial line at some point where you get to dig your heels in and you get your way, or the people that are handing you that check every week say, listen, we got to work this thing out because we're going back to the finals, and you're the guy that's, one of the guys handling the ball to do it. What are you going to do? I just don't see many guys just sitting out, and giving that up. No, there's not. So is that what is going to – Dan Gilbert could be a hard-headed guy. So it's just, where is this? And that's again what we don't know.
Well, it could ultimately become what you're describing, which is a leverage play. It could become who really has the power here. We've talked so much about all the power that NBA superstars now wield. And LeBron does it by these short-term contracts with opt-outs. Well, the Cavaliers do control Kyrie now for 2 years. So who has the power in that scenario? You're right. In the NFL, guys might hold out. Now, they've put so much stuff into the NFL CBA right now that it does not benefit a player to hold out. He starts losing all this money the day he starts missing practices and all that kind of stuff, and he never wins. The player basically never wins in that scenario in the NFL anymore. But we're all very accustomed to NFL training camp holdouts. You're right. I can't think of a time that's happened in basketball. Kyrie's getting paid $18 million this year. He's going to show up.
In the NFL.
So what power does he have? How does he force this if he wants to?
The power normally players have is what guys like LeBron and or Chris Paul and these guys are doing, is doing these deals with the player option the next year.
Right.
So, hey, gang, I have the power to leave. So you don't see that in the NFL. They're not going on these 1-year deals and saying, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to go somewhere else. And they're like, oh, you are? Really? It doesn't work that way as much in football as it does in basketball. So that's their power. Where in the NFL, the only way a player can have leverage is by saying, wait, you don't want to pay me? Then I'll withhold my services. Well, how long are you going to do that before you start to cost yourself money because the owners have deeper pockets, though they're not getting your services on the field? with the basketball players, because of these contracts and the way they're doing it, they can say, well, all right, next year, I'll be gone. Kyrie has 2 more years, though. 2 more full years, and then a player option. He could sit there and say, well, you know what, my player option comes up, I'm gone. And Dan Gilbert could say, okay, that's 2 years from now. These 2 years, I got you here. You're going to play ball. It all comes down to, I guess, the attitude and relationship at some point.
But so that's what I'm asking you. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You could save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. What is Kyrie's leverage? I mean, what leverage does he have?
All he has is I don't want to be here anymore. Right. And it does he do in basketball and other sports? Do you say I'm going to be disgruntled? It's going to be a bad locker room? Are we at that point? See, I'm not in that locker room though, and it's a smaller locker room as far as players and as far as chemistry. And as I've always said, again, everybody is not friends. Never has been, never will be. But you want to respect your work person, your work partner, your teammate from the work sense. So is the apple cart upset in the locker room because of that to where you can't play? Then, quite honestly, that's on Kyrie. If this whole thing boils down to, and again, we're in the guessing stage, that Kyrie is mad because his name came up in trade rumors, and he's going to be disgruntled because of that. Well, you know where I'm going to point the finger of are you serious? But I don't know that that's the whole situation. So I don't think he has a great amount of leverage. He's got 2 more full years before his player option.
Right. What we think we know is that he asked for a trade. We do not know that he demanded anything or threatened anything.
And we don't know the relationships.
Right. So maybe he's saying, look, if they're going to trade me, I want to try and control where I go. I don't want to get traded someplace that I don't want to be. If he was maybe thinking, I'm going to wind up in Indiana or Denver, and I'm not interested in either of those places, so I'm going to try and control this. One way or another, I don't think he has the kind of control over the circumstance that he would like to have right now. Neither does the owner, but this might be one situation where the owner is actually in charge in the NBA, which decreasingly is the case.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Twitter reaction through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. EJ tweets at us, Kyrie's leverage is LeBron. LeBron will not allow Gilbert to start the season with uncertainty of winning a title if Kyrie no-show. I don't think Kyrie no-show is an option.
I don't think so either. I do not think
the leverage is LeBron. If LeBron is so upset with this that he says to Gilbert, just get him out of here.
Again, all we can do is go on these reports, and it doesn't sound like these guys hate one another. So to me, that sounds like something that hopefully can be worked out. And we've been doing the show a long time, and I don't really recall a star at that level holding out. It just doesn't seem to happen.
In basketball, no. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Hambo. I can't think of any example of that.
I can't at all.
Basketball players just don't do that. Their contracts are guaranteed. It doesn't work that way.
I don't see it starting with Kyrie Irving. I just don't see that happening.
Anthony tweets, his leverage is Cleveland becoming horrible again when he leaves. If you look at it, if you're buying yourself 2 years of LeBron and Kyrie, and then 1 year of just Kyrie, and then he's saying he'll leave after that, and you're Gilbert, you're staring into the abyss. That brings up what was the third option on our poll yesterday, which is trade Kyrie for long-term benefit. Mm-hmm. Get young players and draft picks and build your post-LeBron future. I'm not suggesting that's what they should do, but in theory they could.
I mean, you have 2 more years of Kyrie before a player option, so you could have 2 more years of Kyrie and LeBron together, but everybody thinks LeBron is gone after this year.
Ben tweets, I think this subject matter has done exactly what it set out to do. Keep all talking in the offseason. Kyrie is not leaving. I can't decide from that if Ben is suggesting this was all just sort of a planted or
I don't think it's planted at all, and I don't think Dan Gilbert and Kobe Altman are going to give up what the conversations are. I believe the situation that we're in, but I am still leaning toward I do think he'll be in Cleveland.
Let me read you one more because, again, I always turn to you for all of my medical expertise because, you're a football player. Zachary tweets, now is the time to trade Kyrie. Highest stock he'll ever have. His knees likely won't last for a long career.
Well, he's 25.
What were the knee injuries that he had? Remember, he had some knees, including the one that took him out of the final. It wasn't just your basic, right? What was it again? He broke his kneecap. Is that it? Is that the only injury that he's had? Or is there something else with the knees? And because a broken kneecap, again, in my with my extraordinarily limited understanding of these things, that doesn't sound like something I'd be worried about long term. He didn't have one of those knee injuries that you worry about,
the ligaments
right?
up, and whether the meniscus or the ligaments or anything like that.
Is that something that would worry you?
Listen. I'm not an expert on broken kneecaps. All I know is I'd rather break a bone than tear a ligament. I do know that, but a broken kneecap, it's a little. Even for a guy who thinks he knows a little bit about the medical profession, because there's been a lot of instruments, used to cut me open, that's a tough one. But I disagree with that. He's 25 years old.
Yeah.
He hasn't been hampered for, when I think of that, I think of Derrick Rose, an MVP who then has had injury after injury, and his game is just, he doesn't even resemble the MVP guy anymore. Kyrie is still on the way up. So I disagree with that. There's no way I'm like, hey, we better trade him now, because, man, it's all going to start falling apart. I don't buy that at all.
All right, keep all that coming. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Great guest list today. Dave McMenamin will check in from Cleveland and that press conference yesterday, 7 o'clock Eastern on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Bud Selig today, Adam Schefter, Zach Lowe, and a whole lot more. All right, to football. Here we go. I'm about to say something that I think in our 18 years I've never said it before, and that is the New England Patriots going into this season feel like a prohibitive favorite unlike any I can ever remember us having in the NFL. It almost feels the way it felt with Golden State going into this past NBA season. And in football, that just doesn't happen. We've had, many times where we've thought teams were going to be really good, including this one. And New England, of course, had that one 16-0 season when they wound up losing in the Super Bowl. But even that year, going into the season, I remember their showdown with Indianapolis was epic, and Peyton was in Indy, and it wasn't as though we just thought New England was head and shoulders above the rest of the sport. I can't remember any time we felt that way about a team in the NFL the way it feels right now that New England sits. Do you agree or disagree?
I tend to lean your way. The last three teams favored in every regular season game, you go back to 2013 in the Broncos, 2007 the Patriots, the year they went undefeated till the Super Bowl, and the 2001 Rams. So each of those teams, they did make it to the Super Bowl, but each of those teams lost. So they were definitely favorites and talked about as favorites. We were around for all of those teams, and I certainly remember talking about those teams. But I don't know if it was in the way we're talking about this team now, because of what Brady has continued to do. And just the team they just year after year after year put together. And maybe because no other team has stepped up to really challenge them, right? We keep saying the Pittsburgh Steelers, during that time, the Ravens for a bit until, let's be honest, the Flacco deal happened and they had started losing a bunch of their players. The Raiders last year, we thought, this is a team could start making a run, and then Derek Carr gets hurt. You keep wondering about a team like the Chiefs. As I said, the Steelers, nobody else in the division with New England. So that's what you're waiting for as well. What team, not only are the Patriots consistently good, but what's the team that's going to step up and knock them off? That's it. And if you were to mention just off the top of your head 2 teams this year, said, give me the 2 teams that could have a chance, you'd probably say Pittsburgh and Oakland, right?
In the AFC?
You're getting to the Super Bowl. I'm talking about
getting there, as far as winning it all, I think that you might mention NFC teams, but yes.
Yeah, did you getting
I think the first one that comes to mind would be Oakland.
It's like what we talk about with the Cavs all the time. Get to the you have a chance to win the championship if you get to the championship. Oakland.
My team would be Oakland because they looked really good last year. They should get better because most of their great players were young, and the quarterback got hurt, and that was the end of everything.
Yeah.
So if Derek Carr, who knows what happens last year if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt. But there's every reason to believe the Patriots are going to be better. They've added so much. They've lost less to
They didn't stand pat.
Next to nothing. And here, let me give you the best example of this I can possibly come up with. Golick loves the nerds. The FPI, the Football Power Index, or Golick calls it the NPI.
The NPI, Nerd Power Index.
They give the Patriots a 35% chance of winning the Super Bowl. No other team's chance is greater than 10%. 35%. What were they giving Golden State before the NBA season started? It was probably higher than that, but, how much higher than that could it be? It couldn't be a 50% chance, I don't think.
Yeah, and this isn't just to get to the Super Bowl. This is to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
So then to beat the best NFC team. Yeah.
So that brings us to the ever-delightful.
Oh, boy.
Someone asked Belichick yesterday about going unbeaten.
Oh, wow.
What could be better than that? What could be better than it being July 26th? And someone is asking Bill.
Did they draw straws?
About their
Hey, someone's
chances.
got to
Well,
ask him this. Let's just pick and decide who asks.
I think we cut it with the question on it, right? So you're going to hear the reporter, I don't know who it is that asked the question, but is recognizes he's putting his head in the lion's mouth by asking it. But it is just priceless, classic, in mid-season form, Bill Belichick. Here we go.
Coach, I was reading a national publication earlier in the week, and it just had me wondering, would you be more apt to go with a piercing death stare or just exhibit utter disgust if somebody asked you about your team being hyped to go undefeated this season?
Yeah, right now we're just trying to have a good day here today, get off to a good start in training camp. We're not really worried about, all that's in the future. That'll come when it comes.
You think I would have been better off reading the July issue of Nantucket Magazine?
For what?
For reading instead of talking about you guys going undefeated?
Yeah. I don't know.
it's just unreal.
Oh, my gosh.
It's just amazing.
I don't know who that is asking the question. It's so funny. I can't take it. I don't know what it is about it, but I find it funnier and funnier. It's become like a routine.
And it wasn't even. We're just looking forward to the Kansas City, the first game of the. Because you wondered if you say Jacksonville, the first preseason game, he didn't even go there today.
Yeah,
we just want to get better today.
But all kidding aside, that I think is a really good lesson for all young people or any person of any age trying to succeed in any endeavor. It isn't about the end goal. I've learned this actually by reading, of all things, you're going to make fun of me, but golf psychology books.
Oh, jeez.
But all kidding aside, golf psychology books they basically are that.
So golf psychology is the only one that does that. Everybody else got it off the golf psychology book.
No, but that's where I've read it.
Okay.
Which is to say, Bill Belichick is standing on the first tee box. Where they are right now is the first tee.
Right.
And if you say to a golfer, "What's your goal today?" or "What are you thinking about right now?"
Mm-hmm.
He can't say, "I'm thinking about breaking the course record."
Right.
If you're thinking about breaking the course record, it doesn't mean you can't. But the giving yourself the best chance is not by thinking, "I want to shoot 61 today." Mm-hmm. It's by thinking, "I need to hit this one shot. And then I'll worry about the next shot then." And that's what Belichick is doing. He's hitting his first shot. Their first shot was getting training camp started. I know it sounds ridiculous.
It does.
But it doesn't. But it actually is.
It is. It's exactly what
there is
it
a method
You're just
to
putting
it.
it to the sport that you like best. Yeah.
No.
It's
all
true
the
in every
same.
single sport.
It's
everything.
not even sports. It's true in literally
In life.
any
Yes,
endeavor.
it is. But, of course, you make it about golf. So
I just read it in the golf book. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you didn't get it at a lecture?
I didn't.
You listen to
I'll
some
tell you what,
golfer
if Bob
lecture about
Rotella
this?
is giving any lectures,
A lecture?
I'm going.
You're going?
And I'm going to give you Bob Rotella's book.
Take notes for me.
You'll just take them from me, whether I took them for you on purpose or not.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Adam Schefter has not stopped typing from the moment he walked in. I saw him walk in the door, the other end of the studio. He's in a zone right now, so something is going on.
Either that or it's a big grocery list.
I'll wait until he looks up, because I can tell he's got something going
Right now he's
here.
doing something.
Good morning, Adam Schefter.
Good morning, guys.
How are you?
What do you got? Was that a tweet you just posted? Should I be looking out here to see what happened, or what do you got?
No tweeting right now.
Okay, well, you do have something, though, this morning, and that is I was sent a note that you had sent to the desk saying that Dallas is signing veteran running back Ronnie Hillman per source. That doesn't sound like a huge transaction. However,
No, ordinarily that would not mean very much.
when you then take it to the next level of context, it is particularly interesting. Shefty, I'll let you pick up the story from there.
Well, basically, we have a situation here with Zeke Elliott, so we're waiting there. And boy, there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah. Okay. Shefty will not put the phone down. Do you need a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So basically, they're signing Ronnie Hillman, and the league has not made a decision yet on Ezekiel Elliott, but I think everybody agrees that they're getting.
Stand by. Shefty's got something
Stand by.
working here.
Just amazing.
Whatever it is you're about to break, you have to break it.
They
on
have
the
a
show
couple
here.
of other running backs on the roster. Obviously, Darren McFadden, Alfred Morris, and a couple of fullbacks, but two running backs. And if the thought that Zeke Elliott might be suspended, Ronnie Hillman could fit into that for a time. I think that's where eventually Adam Schefter is going to go once he's done.
Look at the smile on his face.
Somebody.
We're watching the man at work as we speak.
It's just great.
Okay, guys, hold on. I got to call you back.
Okay,
all right. See, no problem. Go do your
got
thing.
something. But you come back and break whatever it is here on the show.
Let me give you this as a trivia then.
Go ahead.
So if Zeke gets suspended, so even before Zeke got suspended, we're talking about suspensions. Since 2014, top 3 teams with suspensions. Could you name them?
Most suspensions?
Most suspensions.
I'm going to guess the Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas is number 1. Right now, they've had 15 players suspended for 100 games. That's the top right now.
Well, I mean,
number 2,
Cleveland?
Cleveland.
Because of Josh
Gordon. Cleveland, 10 suspensions, 54 games.
I'm trying to think of people who were suspended for a year.
Third, you're probably not going to get. Third is going to be Baltimore. Baltimore had 9 suspensions for 55 games. So those are the top 3. Dallas with the most players at 15 players and 100 games.
Can we just react briefly to the fact that Adam Schefter came in, sat down, and said live on the air, "I got to call you back," when he wasn't even on the phone with us.
The man has
but his phone is ringing.
2 phones, and I'm looking at the phones, and the amount of texts that show up
something's going on
is ridiculous.
Something is going on, and we'll find out what it is when Schefter can rejoin us. In the interim, we'll make that Straight Talk.
Sure, why not?
Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts.
I'm really interested in the Flacco back injury. Again, it was hurt weightlifting, so you hope it's nothing, obviously long term. Where did he hurt it? How bad is it hurt? Is it just going to be a week? So Ryan, as far as backups, was it Ryan Mallett, I believe, is there as the backup quarterback and going to take the reps now. But
yes, he's one of 2 other quarterbacks they have on the roster.
Yeah, but
there are a couple of other football notes. So while we wait for Schefter, let's just go through some of them. Did you see who was listed as the starting quarterback in Cleveland?
Oh, I did. Cody Kessler. That's why I said he's going to start the season.
Okay, so will they cut Brock Osweiler?
That's a fair question.
Can you have a $16 million backup?
Especially Brock Osweiler.
Right.
It's different than having Tony Romo. If you had him as a backup, you'd say, boy, this is a phenomenal backup.
And particularly when you made the big move for the quarterback that is in waiting. So it's not even like Osweiler. Like they drafted Deshaun Kaiser because he's going to get a chance to be the quarterback.
And you also have Kevin Hogan on the roster as well, and then Osweiler, and then Cody Kessler.
But the 3 realistic options to start the season would have been Kessler, Osweiler, and Kaiser.
Yes.
And if it's not going to be Kaiser's going to be there one way or the other.
Kaiser's going to be there.
If it's not going to be Osweiler, do you think they release him?
I think there's a good chance there. Well, I think a lot may depend on how far is Kaiser coming along, what you think of Hogan, right? I mean, because you want to have a dependable backup. And the one thing about Osweiler, he has, more experience than obviously Kaiser, and certainly more than Hogan as well. So you have to look at that from that standpoint and say, if Osweiler isn't the starter, do we need to hang on to him for a bit because he's our best chance as a backup should something happen? And, remember Cleveland last year, every other game they had a quarterback get splattered. Now they have improved the offense because they basically let their O-line go in free agency, but they've improved. They had some good pickups in the offseason, so they've improved their offensive line. Certainly stable with Joe Thomas, the future Hall of Famer at left tackle, but they helped fill the other side of the line and the interior as well. But so do I think he gets cut right away? No, not if he is the best viable backup option for them if they need to go to him.
Speaking of backup options, Mitchell Trubisky starts camp listed 3rd on the depth chart in Chicago behind Mike Glennon and Mark Sanchez.
Makes sense.
By the time the season starts, do you believe he is the backup? Does he start getting? I mean, if he's 3rd, I have to believe that he's getting practically no work. And if you want to get him ready at some point to play,
third means you can still split 2 backups. You could split the number 2 reps. Mm-hmm. You could do that, and unless they are going. And I don't know that. I don't know how the breakup is going. But yes, number 1 gets the most reps. Number 2 gets next, and 3 gets a few. So you can take the number 2 reps and divide them among Sanchez and Trubisky. I have no idea. But that's a tough question to ask. We have to see how he develops. He has had 13 starts. He's a good-looking kid. I mean, a good-looking, athletic quarterback that can move some and has got a gun that can throw the ball all over the place. But that's certainly a difficult question to answer when he has so few starts to say all of a sudden, hey, you're the guy that's one play away one play away from leading this team.
And then the other story. Oh, Schefter's coming back. Let's see if we've got something here. Here comes Adam Schefter making his way back into the studio. I feel like there should be play of this.
Any chance it was a phone call from somebody other than maybe it's some basketball? Maybe it's a basketball breakdown.
The Kyrie
Irving thing.
Well, first of all, I'll say it started out. It was like a simultaneous eruption of 4 different things all at once. Okay, but it started out as a joke that one GM played that he just traded, a couple of players for. It was a blockbuster trade that was a joke.
That's a bad
so I'm like,
who would
bad
do
joke.
That to you? You can't do that to Schefter.
We have Ezekiel again. Ronnie Hillman thing is getting done, and the league is not made a decision. Le'Veon Bell, I don't think, is going to be showing up to training camp today when the Pittsburgh Steelers report. And then, of course, we have the Flacco injury. And it was a situation where, again, just reading between the lines, I think it would not surprise me if ultimately the Baltimore Ravens start talking about Colin Kaepernick and whether or not to bring him in there. And that's something that's going to be on the radar that'll be worth following here the next 24, 48 hours because, again, Flacco's got the back injury. They've got Ryan Mallett as the backup.
Right.
And you just look at this. Greg Roman joined their staff. He worked with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. John Harbaugh is the head coach. Jim is a Colin Kaepernick fan. And so if they decide that they need to go in that direction, that, I think, is the first spot where we're going to start to get some Colin Kaepernick discussion here going forward in Baltimore. It's a spot to watch here in the next 24 hours with Colin Kaepernick.
I'd say that would make great sense to do. The bigger question here is, what's the MRI going to say? And it's a weightlifting.
Yeah, the MRI didn't say very much of anything. And I don't know that MRIs on backs ever say much of anything. And what will probably wind up happening is, my guess is they probably give him an epidural. They don't believe it's long-term. But even if it's not long-term.
You don't want to rush it.
You don't want to rush it.
Right.
And even if it's not long-term, you've got 2 arms left in camp.
Right.
So you got Ryan Mallett, and you got another guy, Dustin Vaughn, I think is his name.
It's Dustin Vaughn, yeah, West Texas A&M.
And so you need another arm at the very least. And so a guy like Kaepernick, if they decide to go that route, would bring them insurance and enable them to have some flexibility and I think give them some options. But there's been so much discussion about the Kaepernick thing that I think the moment a team moves, that's going to be a huge talking point across the league. And so I think that's possible at some point. We have the Ezekiel Elliott thing. And so there's a lot going on.
All right, Schefter keeps looking down at his phone, so I keep waiting for something to happen. Let's take a brief break with that. We'll keep Schefter here, and by the time we come back from a quick break, we'll probably have 9 more stories.
Aaron Rodgers will be traded.
But obviously, and he'll break the Kyrie news.
Yeah.
But clearly, if Kaepernick winds up signing here, that becomes the big story overall. And, Steve Bisciotti is the owner in Baltimore, and this is an ownership decision. We understand that around the league. We heard from the Kansas City owner yesterday saying that would be a move that he would make if the football people told him
there's no reason
that he wanted to. Well,
make
that's an easy thing to say if you don't have a reason to make it. Let's see if the Ravens do actually make that move.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Schefter.
Yes.
Is here. And obviously an extremely busy time as training camps are opening all over the place, and Schefter has got the stories, and one of them is about Joe Flacco, who injures himself weightlifting and will miss some period of time, and during that time, the Ravens don't have a lot of quarterbacks in camp, and so all eyes then will turn to Colin Kaepernick.
I just think it makes a lot of sense if you look at all the pieces together and you connect the dots, right? They need an arm. They can use a presence. Some people make the argument that Colin Kaepernick is every bit as capable, if not more capable, than Ryan Mallett, the number 2 quarterback on the roster right now. Flacco is out at least a week. They don't believe it's any type of significant back injury. They think he'll be back after a week. But backs are tricky.
Yes.
You don't know how they're going to react, and they need to have insurance just in case. So, again, John Harbaugh, brothers with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, Colin Kaepernick fan. Greg Roman on the Ravens staff. Colin Kaepernick fan. There's support in that organization for Colin Kaepernick. So it just makes some sense that when they go through this and figure out their options and discuss what to do next, I would guess, my thinking is that at some point they're going to say, okay, what do we think of Colin Kaepernick here?
This might be the one player in the league, though, Mike, that you can hear from the coach and you can hear from a member of the staff, and there can be all of that support. But it's going to come down to the owner.
Well, I would have to believe already there has been a discussion with most owners and GMs to owners saying, hey, if they're a team that could you maybe see in the mix, you already know by now what your owner thinks. Either go ahead and get him or not. I would think that's already been done, whether you can do it or not. Going back to the coaches, Greg Roman, who was with Kaepernick in San Francisco, Kaepernick has a 25-4 record.
25-14.
25-14 record with a total QBR of 70 with Greg Roman as his offensive coordinator. And he's 3-16 with a 52 QBR with other offensive coordinators. So the question is, from a Kaepernick then, do you go here? You certainly could have a shot to be the backup behind Flacco and beat out Ryan Mallett, or do you still wait, even though you haven't gotten a workout anywhere, and wait for a big injury that you know is going to happen somewhere, and maybe that's where your chance is going to be?
But I also think that Baltimore is the type of organization that could support him.
I agree.
Strong enough to bring him in, enough veteran presence, enough leadership, enough voices, where I think a move there absolutely could be popular and productive.
Let me ask you this, because it was conspicuous by his absence, if you will, right?
Yep.
That no team signed him and all of these lesser quarterbacks got signed. You talk to a lot more people than we do. How concerned is the league about the notion that training camps would begin, that the season would begin, and Colin Kaepernick would be unsigned?
I have not heard any concern from the league about that. I think the league feels like this is a decision that each and every team can make. Do I think that certain owners have blocked teams from visits or I do. I do believe that. And I think that there has been more interest in him from the coaching and front office level than there has been at the ownership level. So it was always going to take a unique opportunity for him to be brought in the right place, at the right spot, at the right time. And to me, when you look at it, Baltimore looks like it could be that opportunity, depending on how this plays out here the next couple of days and depending on what that organization decides to do. But to me, I'm watching them to see if they decide to make a move on it.
I think it would be a good fit there and a place for him to give it a go. At least get some passes, start throwing the ball, and be seen again as a football player. Let's go to players that are going to be counted on right away, but right now he's not playing. Andrew Luck on the PUP list. Again, for those that don't know, when you get put on the physically unable to perform list in the preseason like they are now, you can come off of it any time. If it's a regular season, you're going to have to miss some significant time. Right now, you can come off of it every time, so no real worry there. But is there a worry with him going on? I'm sure people see, oh, my God, he's on the PUP list. Yeah. What's the issue?
I don't think there's a big concern right now.
I agree.
He's not going to be ready. I think that he has been throwing. I think that they feel pretty productive. I think that everything is on course. Now, again, it's still early in camp, and I don't know that he'll play much during the preseason. I wouldn't think he would, but I think that they feel pretty good about it. And it's funny because I got a text yesterday from somebody, hey, Andrew Luck going on PUP out the first 7 weeks of the season. And I'm like, what?
New rule?
A couple of calls and found out, well, yeah, he was placed on PUP, and the person that texted me didn't realize that when you're placed on PUP in the preseason, you could be brought off the PUP list at any time. Right. It doesn't automatically sign you. Right. But again, it's an example of some of the things that come your way during the course of a day, like the fake trade that was brought to me by a particular front office member.
Mike and Shefty. So we have about 2 minutes left here. Open up the notebook. What else? As training camps are opening, what else are you closely watching?
Well, the Cardell Jones trade last night was very interesting because he gets traded to San Diego. When Buffalo brings him into the office to tell him that he's being traded to San Diego for a conditional 7th-round draft pick, he began crying. He began crying tears of joy because he was so happy to be going to a place where he felt like he was going to be wanted and appreciated. And he worked with Phillip Rivers before he was drafted. And the Chargers head coach is Anthony Lynn, who was in Buffalo last year, who knows Cardell. I had somebody call me last night and say to me, watch Cardell in time. He has the chance to really get things in line here, and he's got Pro Bowl quarterback potential. Now, again, a lot of players have Pro Bowl potential. Okay, there's a long way to go, but there's something there that the Chargers see, and they got him for a 7th-round pick. Le'Veon Bell, I don't think we see him today. When the Steelers report to camp, he has not signed that franchise tender. He's not contractually obligated to be in training camp, so he doesn't have to be there. We had the Joe Flacco back injury. Again, you wait to see what they do with Colin Kaepernick. Makes a lot of sense out there. The Cowboys going to sign Ronnie Hillman today. You wonder what they think about Zeke Elliott. I'm told Jerry Jones is confident about the way this is going to go, but we'll see what the NFL decides to do on the Zeke Elliott front.
I don't think Pittsburgh coaching staff or management would be too upset Le'Veon doesn't show up for a little while.
No, I mean, the fewer hits he takes, not that he would take any in the preseason anyway, but the better. All right, he is literally today.
Yes,
the busiest man I've ever seen.
No, it was just a little flurry there, and it was fun, and it was interesting.
I bet it'll happen again.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast.
Let's bring in Dave McMenamin, who again covers the Cavaliers and so extraordinarily well for us. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. He was there for the news conference in Cleveland yesterday as Dan Gilbert and the new full-time general manager, Koby Altman, tried to explain all of the things that have been playing out so publicly around their franchise. So, Dave, we heard what they said and the way they tried to paint a picture of this thing, as Golic said, as though we're in total control here. What is the reality? Are they in total control of the situation, or are there things going on they really cannot control involving Kyrie Irving?
Well, they can't control the market, Greeny, and they've had this trade request sitting in their laps for almost 3 weeks now. And the fact that they took this tact in that press conference, to me, says they haven't gotten the offer that they think would be fair to trade a 25-year-old superstar on a very affordable $20 million a year contract, considering what he brings to the table. 25 points per game, close to 6 assists, and a highly efficient outside shooter in today's NBA that the three-point shot is such a big part of what goes on. And so if the deal's not there yet, and they're starting to look at the summer and say, well, all of a sudden, our leverage is dwindling by the day, perhaps the deal's not going to surface. Let's not throw any more gas on the fire at this press conference, because there is a chance that Kyrie could be back in the fold. And we had to start rebuilding that bridge potentially. So that's, to me, the reason they went that direction, because, if the deal doesn't present itself, they're not just going to trade Kyrie just to trade him. They're going to look at him as a very strong asset and keep him as part of the team. And so this was the first step to me that said, hey, Kyrie could be in training camp to start the 2017-2018 season.
The bridge you talk about, is the bridge cracked or blown up?
Well, I mean, it's always cracked to me. I've said this time and time again. Until Kyrie Irving is wearing a different uniform, there's still a chance for a reconciliation. And so what have we seen? Yeah, Kyrie Irving unfollowed LeBron on Instagram, and yet Stephen A. Smith had someone in LeBron's camp say that LeBron was still upset by what the news that Kyrie wanted out, that he wanted to physically get into some sort of fight with Kyrie. That stuff can be squashed with a simple sit-down meeting. And I found it interesting that Koby Altman chose to kind of put Tyronn Lue, the Cavs coach, on the spot in a positive light, saying, you can say anything you want about the chaos surrounding our team, but our rock is Tyronn Lue and our cultural leader is Tyronn Lue. To me, that was like a big neon sign pointing to Tyronn Lue as, hey, that's a guy who can put both these guys in the same room and get them back on the same page. And so to me, that would also be part of the process. The head coach saying, hey, Kyrie, I can adjust my playbook to make sure the ball's in your hands more, if that's something that's important to you. And, hey, LeBron, for our sake, for your sake, for Kyrie's sake, you're going to have to adjust your game too, so we can get back to that championship level with Kyrie in the fold.
Mike and Mike, Dave McMenamin is with us, that were presented by Progressive Insurance. There are so many complicating factors in all of this, and one of them is LeBron himself, forgetting his relationship with Kyrie Irving. the actual, or one of the perhaps unintended consequences of LeBron taking these short-term contracts with these consistent outs in them, while it places pressure on the organization to surround him with winning pieces, it also leaves them with zero stability. So what do the Cavaliers, we all think that LeBron is gone after next season. What do the Cavaliers think their LeBron future is?
I really don't know if they know, because the picture they painted of LeBron yesterday was that everything is rosy, that he's as committed as he's ever been. Dan Gilbert actually used the phrase he's as helpful as he's ever been, and that alludes to the fact that LeBron James was active in terms of trying to get Derrick Rose to come over, and he also spoke to Jeff Green along that process, and that this organization and that the city of Cleveland means a great deal to him. And Kobe Altman used the language, he wants to be a part of this thing for years to come. LeBron, we know, is only under one more year guaranteed, and his contract can opt out next summer. Was it wishful thinking, or was it alluding to something that they believe that actually LeBron is not going to move out of town? I don't know the answer to that. Everything I've been able to report based on people who are familiar with LeBron's thinking have said that next year is what's on LeBron's mind, and winning big and winning a championship. And, it stands to reason that if LeBron does win a championship next season with the Cavs, he's not going to leave in the summer of 2018. And so perhaps it's denial, perhaps it's kicking the can down the road, or perhaps the Cavs front office looks around the rest of the league and say, hey, the West is really loaded. If you want to go to the Lakers, so be it. But you're not going to win the way you'd win with us. And so, maybe they feel better about their chances than they would have before, because they do have that, or they feel like they have that to offer LeBron James, that he can win and get back to the finals in perpetuity as long as he stays with the Cavs.
Cavs reporter Dave McMenamin joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So outside of Kyrie, move not done there. Derrick Rose comes to the team. Kevin Love still on the team, which means you mentioned him being traded all the time, because that's what happens with Kevin Love. And now we see the Suns guard Eric Bledsoe is going to be working out with LeBron out, I believe, in Vegas. So they'll be working out together. So any other moves do we see on the horizon for the Cavaliers?
Well, I mean, the Phoenix Suns are one of the teams that the Cavs have spoken to about a potential Kyrie deal. It came up before the draft. But Eric Bledsoe working out with LeBron this week, the timing looks, bizarre. But it's really not. And this is not trying to make any sort of cover for LeBron or anything like that, but literally, look up Google Images, put in LeBron James and Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe was working out in Cleveland on the Cavs practice facility court with LeBron in the summer of 2014 when LeBron came back to the Cavs. That didn't mean Bledsoe was coming to the Cavs then. They have the same agent in Rich Paul. They work out together every summer. This is when their schedules align. LeBron was going to be working out with Derrick Rose. Maybe he's putting together some sort of workout while he's in Vegas. Because everybody has some availability in their busy NBA superstar summer. And so this is happening. Don't connect the dots saying that a Phoenix deal is imminent. Right now, nothing is really imminent. The Cavs have 15 guys on their roster now with signing Derrick Rose. So unless the right Kyrie Irving deal presents itself, this is what the Cavs are going to look like heading into training camp. That doesn't mean that the right Kyrie Irving deal won't present itself. But as I said at the top of the segment, it hasn't yet, and it's been 3 weeks. And every day that passes, it's going to be hard to have the Cavs have more leverage in this situation. So the less leverage you have usually means the worse the offers get.
So we'll see, and it's going to keep you busy, that's for sure. Dave McMenamin, well done. Thank you so much. I know there'll be no rest now for you.
Thanks, Dave.
Through what is usually a fairly calm month of August. That's Dave McMenamin on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Our NBA insider, Zach Lowe, is ready to go. He joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Good morning, Zach.
How you guys doing?
We're doing great. So let's start with that. You know, we see like a guy like LeBron James and several other NBA stars, they manage to put their contractual, Carmelo Anthony with his no trade clause, they put themselves in a position where contractually they are in total control of their own circumstances. Kyrie Irving wants to be traded. How much control is he in of his own circumstances?
Not as much as those guys, but look, he only has 2 years left, and then his third year is an option, which will likely decline. And if the Cavs think LeBron is leaving and they think Kyrie does not want to be around to, be the alpha dog on the wrecked remains of LeBron's team, then he does have at least some degree of leverage, because 2 years is a very short time. That's what all these other teams are thinking about. Like, is 2 years long enough for us to really give up the mother load for him? So he's got a little bit of leverage, not as much as those other guys, but some.
You wrote about the headline of Kyrie Irving, wanting to be traded was shocking. Was it shocking to the NBA world? I mean, it certainly caught us off guard, but inside the NBA world, was this a monster shock?
Monster. Absolute monster. There had been rumblings that he was unhappy, and you would read these quotes every once in a while where he would say, it's hard to kind of sublimate my game and mix with LeBron and all that, but I don't think anyone expected in late July for a story about a trade request or a trade demand or whatever the right word is to come out at this time. It blew the league away.
And so where do we stand as of right now? You know that they have, if there's a ticking clock here, is it to the beginning of training camp? Is it to the beginning of the preseason? Is it to the beginning of the season? Could this thing go into the year if indeed they do intend to trade Kyrie Irving? Where do we stand as of now?
Right now, they're listening really hard to offers. They seem very confident that they can get a good deal, which means one of two things. The confidence means one of two things. Number one, they're fine not trading him. Give us what we want or we're not trading him. Or number two, they have a good baseline deal they know they can get, so they can go to every other team and say, you have to beat this or else you got no shot at Kyrie Irving. So they're confident, but it is a fluid situation. And as I wrote in my piece, I think it will take a LeBron, Kyrie sit down somewhere, get in a room to hash it out and see if you can carry it through. Because this team's really good, and it would be a shame to waste what might be the last year LeBron is there.
Can they make that happen? Can Ty Lue make that happen? Does LeBron want it to happen?
Well, that's unclear, and every stupid social media post that comes with one troll and the other and this and that makes it seem like neither is super excited about it. But, that's what's frustrating about the story is there's all this drama and you forget there's a basketball team in the middle of it, like a really good basketball team. And it seems like if your goal is to win a championship, everyone should be able to calm down, get in a room and really think what is the opportunity we have here? How special is it? Can we salvage it?
Our NBA insider, Zach Lowe, joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Is there any deal in the scenarios you think of deals that could potentially happen, anything that would happen where after that deal that we would say the Cleveland Cavaliers are still not the favorite in the East?
I could see that. If they lean the deal towards a younger player who's not maybe ready for prime time, I think the Celtics are going to be really good next year. The Raptors are going to be good. If they traded, let's say, Kyrie for Wiggins, and Wiggins still sort of struggles on defense, struggles to, shoot the three, struggles to get his teammates involved. I could see that being an opening for the Celtics to crack in there. But yeah, the Cavs are almost certainly going to open the season as favorites. I don't think it's a no-brainer, though.
Does Tom Thibodeau, just knowing him as you do and knowing his style and the way he thinks of the game, does Kyrie Irving feel like a player that he would want? Because I've heard, obviously the Wiggins conversation makes sense, but I struggle to see that pairing, him giving the ball to a guy in Kyrie Irving with all the other pieces that he has and not really a guy who plays any defense. Do you think Thibodeau likes Kyrie Irving?
He has, he had Derrick Rose, who was never a good or even great defensive player, all sort of the offensive jitterbug. And he's had a weird affinity for little point guards like Nate Robinson and John Lucas III who can gun and get their own shots. To me, I think he would think about it because Kyrie's only 25. That's the angle everyone misses because he's been around forever. He's only 25. He's just entering his prime, and he's a special offensive talent. And if you put him on the floor with other guys he can share the load with a little bit, it's to me, it's worth looking at really hard.
You mentioned the name Derrick Rose. He's now with the Cavaliers. What's the expectation for him, a guy who was an MVP, but we can't say his play has resembled anything like an MVP since?
I think your expectation has to be you bring him off the bench, you put him in lineups where Channing Frye's at center, Kevin Love's at center, and it's him and 4 shooters. And so maybe you tweak the rotation so LeBron, who's been the captain of those lineups, isn't on the floor as much. And you just say, hey, take the ball, do crazy stuff, get to the rim. The lane's going to be wide open. Find shooters all over the place. Play 15 minutes a game. We'll live with your bad defense against bench units. If you're asking anything more than that, I think you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's a $2 million deal. So in that regard, I think it makes a lot of sense. There's very little downside in bringing in Rose. All right, Mike and Mike, Zach Lowe, who's with us. So you're in on this stuff. What is realistic? Like what names are we hearing that they could get? I've heard Isaiah Thomas's name. I've heard Kristaps Porzingis' name. We've heard Andrew Wiggins' name. Right, the Knicks aren't doing it for Porzingis, obviously. Right, they would trade their entire roster. But so you tell me, what is realistic?
I think Wiggins is realistic. Isaiah Thomas could become realistic. Like, the Celtics are not there. They just revealed yesterday Isaiah is not going to need surgery on his hip. That's a big plus for them. But he's 3 years older than Kyrie. He's going to get a massive contract next summer. I think the Celtics would think about it. To me, Phoenix has been mentioned as an obvious fit, and if Ramona Shelburne's report is accurate, and she's always accurate, that Josh Jackson's not going to be in the deal, that's problematic. And Denver is the other team that I think has to think really hard. We don't get star free agents here. This is a 25-year-old stud we can put with Nikola Jokic and Paul Millsap. Do we give up Gary Harris and Jamal Murray? Can we get him for just one of those guys? I think that's another really interesting team.
So those are the teams to watch, and we'll see. And what is I'm going to put you in a position that all of you insiders hate.
Love it.
I'm going to ask you to guess. What is your best guess on when this thing plays out and how it plays out?
I think it's going to go slowly. I don't think the Cavs are afraid to take it into training camp, at least as of now. My guess would be he gets traded, and I guess I would say like around camp, maybe into camp, September, mid-September, something like that. I would still say that's my guess.
And does any of this have any bearing whatsoever on Carmelo Anthony? And if not, what's going on with him?
I don't think it has much bearing on Carmelo Anthony. The Cavs really don't seem that interested in Carmelo Anthony, and they're so far over the luxury tax that like adding a point guard and Carmelo Anthony is like $40 million of salary. He still wants to go to the Rockets by all accounts. Like it's been actually kind of stunning how little so far he's been connected to the Kyrie stuff.
All right, we will see. Zach Lowe, well done. Always.
Thanks, Zach.
Very much enjoy the insight. Thank you. Have a terrific day, and we'll be checking in again soon. That's Zach Lowe.
Thanks, guys.
This has been the Best of Mike and Mike. Now you can subscribe to the Best of Mike and Mike in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast.